good, y'all? It's the Demouchets React, and we're back with another video. Who we got today, C?
Today we're back with another American reaction. So excited about this video. If you're new to us
and we're new to you,
make sure you scroll down,
hit that subscribe button,
and turn on the post notification bell
because we're on the road to 200K.
And we cannot get there without you guys, alright? Join the family. Without further ado, let's get into the video.
Let's get it.
Oceania. The entire population of all of Oceania is only about 43-ish million people as of 2020. It spans the eastern and western hemispheres, crossing over the international date line, and the boundaries are very blurred. A lot of people don't exactly even know what even classifies, but the furthest islands that people might claim would be the Northern Mariana Islands for the northwest. Some might extend it to the Bonin Islands of Japan, Hawaii in the northeast, but some might extend it to Clipperton Island, Easter Island in the southeast, although some might extend it to the Juan Fernandez Islands, and New Zealand in the south, but some extend it to Macquarie Island, just below, which belongs to Australia. In Oceania, you have 4 subregions that divide up the islands both culturally and geographically. They are Australasia, Melanesia, Micronesia, and Polynesia. Although, of course, there are no actual demarcated lines in the ocean, generally the ocean boundaries kind of look like a pair of lips kissing a triangle, and we will cover these 4 regions now. Australasia, the biggest one, made up of pretty much almost everything that belongs to Australia and New Zealand. Keep in mind the Cocos and Keeling and Christmas Island territories are in the Indian Ocean, not the Pacific, but their classification depends on whom you ask. Anyway, obviously, Australia is the largest and most populated one, with about half of the entire population of Oceania. Australia is the only landmass that is able to harbor extensive desert zones and desert flora and fauna. As the biggest economy and trading partner and social influencer, they are essentially kind of like the factory that keeps things going on with all the other nations in the Pacific. Without Australia, it's a strong case to argue that many of the other Pacific islands would struggle to maintain their growing development needs. And it's confusing because New Zealand is kind of the only landmass that is both part of Australasia and Polynesia, as the native Maori people of New Zealand are considered the southernmost Polynesians in the world. But yeah, for what it's worth, Australia and New Zealand, they're the powerhouses of Oceania. I mean, there's not too much I could say that you guys don't already know. I mean, Australian, New Zealand culture, I kind of see Aussies and Kiwis as just like these joyfully intrepid, adventurous people. You gotta love the Aussies and Kiwis. And Australia is kind of like the girlfriend that the U.S. cheats on Canada with, but then Canada also kind of secretly cheats on the U.S. with New Zealand, so it's kind of like we're stuck in this love square. Anyway, jumping off of New Zealand, Polynesia. Polynesia has the largest ocean territory in the Pacific, and the entirety of the population is only around 6 to 6.5-ish million people, depending on who you include. Out of all the native peoples of Oceania, Polynesians kind of get like the most attention in media. I mean, everybody knows like the hula, luau's, the haka dance, tribal tattoos, the Easter Island statues. Those are all kind of like distinct Polynesian culture traits. Whenever there's like a movie or a TV show featuring an islander, it's almost always exclusively a Polynesian. In Polynesia, you have the core island groups of the sovereign nations of New Zealand, Samoa, Tonga, and Tuvalu, Hawaii, which is a state of the U.S., and American Samoa, which is a U.S. territory, the New Zealand Free Association states of the Cook Islands, Niue and Tokelau, Easter Island, which is a special territory of Chile, all of French Polynesia, which is an overseas territory of France, as well as Wallis and Futuna, which is classified as a collectivity of France. There's also Norfolk Island, which is an external territory of Australia, the Pitcairn Islands, which are British overseas territories, and finally Rotuma, which actually belongs to the Melanesian nation of Fiji, but is geographically and culturally classified as falling under Polynesian. There's also a bunch of disputed areas, like the Line Islands of Kiribati are kind of classified as Polynesian, and Nauru is kind of a disputed one because their culture is kind of mixed between Micronesian and Polynesian. It's weird, but basically what you gotta know is that in the Pacific, there is the Polynesian Triangle. It starts in New Zealand, goes up to Hawaii, ends in Easter Island, and it just makes a triangle. I would kind of argue that Polynesians are probably some of the most adventurous, intrepid, spirited people on Earth because their ancestors literally had to cross the Pacific with minimal seafaring technology. The Polynesians also took claim to their territory very seriously, as having land in the middle of the ocean was seen as very important. The bigger the land, the better. But the issue is, a lot of the islands were just...
Sometimes you just got to get away from everybody and their ideals and what they want to do. Okay? They did right.
Yeah.
It was a
very
turn.
far apart from each other. So that's why their culture kind of developed a lot of big, strong warrior types of people. They really wanted to defend their islands. I mean, if you had a
Facts.
tropical paradise, you probably want to defend it too.
Facts.
Families and cousins would split off, and that's kind of where you get the different Polynesian languages. A lot of them are intelligible, but they still have their own like little dialects. You know, Cook Islanders can kind of understand the Maori. You know, people of Samoa kind of understand the Tongans, like that. But yeah, they developed really strong kingdoms and civilizations that were thriving. So anyway, yeah, moving on. Micronesia. Not to be confused with the Federated States of Micronesia, a country inside of Micronesia called Micronesia. Anyway, this is the smallest in terms of population and land area. They have less than 500,000 people and less than 1,000 square miles of land. The difference between Micronesia and Polynesia, first of all, is that, like the name implies, it is micro. It's very small. Unlike Polynesia and Melanesia, most of their landmass are coral atolls, these thin, wispy, flat, low-lying islands that barely go above sea level. In the region of Micronesia, you have the sovereign states of Palau, the Federated States of Micronesia and the Marshall Islands, as well as Kiribati and Nauru, although Nauru is kind of disputed. And then you have the U.S. territories of Guam and the Northern Mariana Islands. One trait politically that sets this area apart is that most of the islands in this area have some kind of alignment with U.S. policy. Palau, the Federated States of Micronesia, and the Marshall Islands are all U.S. free association states, which means they kind of give each other a certain level of privilege. The people from the island countries are easily able to move and migrate to the U.S. and live there, buy property, and vice versa, U.S. to these islands. In addition, they also have access to certain U.S. social services. In addition, they provide the U.S. with military bases. That's kind of how it works. Kiribati and Nauru are kind of more aligned with Australia, and they work more with the Australian government, and they're kind of more on their own. And Kiribati is the only nation that has a plus 14 UTC time zone. They straddle the international date line. So they are technically the first country to see tomorrow. Again, we did videos on these. If you didn't watch them, watch them. Anyway, culturally, Micronesians have kind of had to adapt to surviving off of as little land space and resources as possible. They didn't exactly quite have the warlike culture as the Polynesians, although they could fight, and they had these really cool helmets made out of blowfish. But overall, they just weren't really involved in too many tribal wars because they didn't really have a lot of space to ambush on. Usually, the more elevated and larger islands with space and hills, they provided crops that would be traded with the atolls that didn't have enough space to grow them. So there was a lot of trading going on between Micronesians, and they kind of relatively got along well with their neighbors and traded well. This allowed the unique Micronesian cultures and traditions to flourish. Stone was a very prized commodity, so Yap was a very popular island in Micronesia, and there were a lot of quarries in Yap, and they would actually make the rye stones, which are the world's largest currency. Still technically
we talked about that. I remember this,
circular discs. The more stone you had, the more powerful you were in Micronesia. Anyway, over time, they got a lot of influence from the Spanish and the Philippines, as Guam was once a Spanish colony, and then a lot of Filipinos moved in. But yeah, Micronesia, it's easy to memorize that it's the micro part of Oceania. It's the smallest one.
part.
And finally,
that's a real contention point.
The second most populated region of Oceania with about 12-ish million people.
Because that's how I would remember it. You know what I'm saying?
What?
But just to scale that is small, right?
Yeah.
But just the scale of it, like looking at it surrounded by all this body of water, I know it's beautiful, but at the same time, it's like, yeah, it's like tides and whatnot, and it's just like the natural disasters can get bad.
Oh, yeah.
That's how I would look at it.
Do y'all deal with a lot of that down there?
That's a good question. Yeah.
Y'all let us know that part. I feel like Oceania is a part of the world that a lot of people don't really. Our American school system did not teach us. All they taught us was Australia and maybe New Zealand on the map. Like when we was learning the continents.
I want to say New Zealand.
Ago.
I want to say
I
so.
don't know. But for us, in our household, baby, our children are learning every single place.
Yeah, facts.
Okay,
facts.
so now where Tuvalu at? All right. We're going to know geography.
But the crazy part about it is now they're ready for more vacations.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes,
so you can't ask them something, be like, what y'all want to do for your birthday or something, you know, a moment to have, and they say something huge, like, just get your bags ready.
I want to go to
just get your bags
Papa.
ready.
Dang it,
Papua
I
New
never
Guinea.
can say it. Yeah.
Papua New Guinea.
Like, we are actually teaching our children where it's at. So let us know if you're from another country outside of this region. Did you learn about the little islands in Micronesia, Melanesia, all of that? Or did you just learn Australia is here? That's it.
Right.
Like, they don't say other countries are around it.
No matter how small or how big it is, because sometimes they just don't point them out.
They don't.
Above, the island of New Guinea, split between Indonesia and Papua New Guinea, as well as the nations of Fiji, Vanuatu, the Solomon Islands, and some will say maybe East Timor. In addition, you have the French Overseas Collectivity of New Caledonia. Melanesians are probably the most enigmatic people group on Earth, with traits and customs that are probably the least highlighted out of all the others. For one, it is the most linguistically diverse area on Earth. Papua New Guinea alone has over 800 recognized languages. It's almost like every single people group and island has their own language or dialect of another cousin language, but essentially it's broken down to people that speak either Austronesian or Papuan languages. Long story short, Melanesians are the cousins of the native Aboriginal peoples of Australia. Some argue that the Torres Strait Islanders might be considered Melanesian, but some people don't. They say they're native. No, it's native Aboriginal. Up to them to decide. I don't know. Ethnic Melanesians are generally darker in their complexion and have coarse hair, which is why often they can be mistaken for being black or of African descent, which they are not related to. Modern geneticists are actually kind of
definitely melanated though.
Theories as to where their ancestors actually came from, but the general consensus is maybe somewhere in South Asia, whereas the Polynesians and Micronesians were mostly descended from East Asia. Melanesians are also the only darker shade skinned people on Earth to have natural blonde hair, a trait caused by the TYRP1 gene. Sometimes it might come out as reddish or bright brown. In any case, geographically, Melanesians have some of the most volcanic land on Earth.
Oh, that's one of those natural
are almost daily
disasters.
Occurrences in some areas. Most areas are lush and green with intense biodiversity, but at the same time very deadly as well. Therefore, the inhabitants have kind of learned how to adapt and survive in a land of chaotic wonder. Traditionally, many Melanesians didn't build towns, but rather like temporary, tight-knit, well-hidden settlements to avoid ambush from other tribes. More so than the Polynesians, I would argue. Melanesians were kind of more willfully distant from other Melanesians, which is one of the reasons why you probably get so many languages and customs and rituals amongst them. Each small group kept to their own ways and hid it from all the other ones. I mean, in Papua New Guinea alone, you have like the Baining people with the fire dance. The men of the Huli tribe have yellow face paint and wear feather hats during celebrations. The Trobriand Islands have their weird cricket fusion octopus dance game. Certain Solomon Islanders have cool beaded headdresses, and Vanuatans invented bungee jumping with people jumping off incredibly dangerous platforms with tree vines. It's honestly like shocking that Melanesian culture...
Nah, that needs to be talked about more. Because bungee jumping is at a lot of our fairs and, you know, people creating whole businesses about it.
Did you see them actually bungee jump?
The person on the bungee jump?
You actually saw the actual video? There's a video circulating. I'm going to have to put it up for you. Yeah.
Yeah, but we need to start giving credit where it's due, is what I'm saying.
Facts.
Like, at least a little poster board. Did you know bungee jumping came from, I'm not going to butcher y'all names.
Yeah.
The V country. Okay?
Yeah,
you know
I agree. It should be highlighted in some shape, form. It's fashion.
It isn't really highlighted much in media when it's so like colorful, unique, vibrant, and fascinating. I don't know. Maybe Moana should have been Melanesian. So yeah, that's just about it. Just a very quick general summary of the regions of Oceania. Each island has their own cool little thing going on. It's considered the last human inhabited area on Earth, and it's a very special region of the planet that not too many people pay attention to. But you, just watching this video, did pay attention to it. So good for you. Anywho, one last show.
Alright, y'all, make sure you guys go check his channel out. I think this is pretty dope. The more you know. You know what I'm saying? The information is there to get. But if you know about it, then you get to understand about it. And you start asking questions like Sierra and I. Did you guys actually learn about any of this in school?
Right.
Like, is this in a conversations? Do people make these things a normalcy to talk about? Because at the end of the day, when you know more, it just expands your understanding.
Yeah,
You know?
it does. It lets you know that you're not just in this world where America is the world.
Yeah.
Like how we were taught in our school system. Like, yeah, because we was just taught America, 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 UK, America, 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 Canada, maybe, America, America, you know. So it's good to know about other places.
Definitely.
But what I was going to say is that you guys told us that y'all want us to do a lot more of the Geography Now videos like we used to do.
Yeah, we did
We thought we did enough, but apparently not. And y'all especially said for the Oceania region. So let us know which country in Oceania should we discover next.
Facts.
All right, y'all. We hope you guys enjoyed this video with us. Be sure to subscribe. We'll see you soon.
Peace.